We are at a turning point of history as the geo-economic order of the world restructures and changes. Along with the re-emergence of China as a major economic center of the world is the revival of the Asian-Europe trade reminiscent of the old Silk Road. And rightfully we ask, where's the Philippines in all of this? Joining me tonight to make sense of the emerging new geo-economic order of the world is Mr. George C., a successful industrialist, financier, international trade practitioner, and negotiator for the Philippines vis-a-vis ASEAN, Japan, China, and USA. He's also the founding director of the think tank Integrated Development Studies Institute. Good evening, George. Welcome to Statecraft.
Good afternoon, Sasot.
The question is, how should our country position itself in this restructuring of the world's economic and political order?
We have to, in this restructuring, there are two main things that maybe we should be looking at. One is the very dominant decision process that the West is following, and the other is the dominant natural position process. One, the decision process, the U.S. has become very political, so we take that into account, that politics in the creation of pipelines and ecosystems of our business. So where we source products, where we sell products to, it takes into account some of the politics. However, we should position such that we have the least amount of constraints, because any ecosystem, any organization, the less restraints there are, the better it is, the more choices we have. So from the economic perspective, from the business perspective, we just have to look at the pipelines of production and delivery. So, for instance, where we can source our products, where we can produce them, and where we can deliver them to. Right now, for instance, if we deliver them to the southern tips of Southeast Asia or to China, it can now deliver to the rest of the world because of BRI. They have created alternative routes of delivery going through Central Asia and going to Europe, so it doesn't necessarily have to go through the sea. By going to certain hubs, no longer within a country, but within entire continents, they can be distributed to the rest of the world very quickly. So these are some of the things we have to look at. For instance, some of our products, if we might have a problem exporting it to certain country, and I'm talking about our own experience, we might have a problem exporting it to a certain country, we will export it to a neighboring country, look for a distributor that is already exporting to that country. So we save the effort and the time. We have to give up a little margin, but that's fine, because if we went to the country ourselves, we would have to spend the extra effort, time, and money. So we give up a little margin and somebody else makes the profit and does the distribution. These are pipelines that we have to study as business people individually and also as a country.
George, you already mentioned BRI, or the Belt Road Initiative, or as it's also called as the One Belt, One Road project of China. And this is a very important development in the economic order of the world, because when we look at the map of the emerging new geo-economic order of the world, we see that economies from Asia to Europe are getting more connected via land through the railway system. And of course, it is because of the BRI, or the One Belt, One Road project of China. We are seeing the resurrection of the old Silk Road. However, from our geographical perspective as the Philippines, we aren't linked to this because, of course, we're so far away from mainland China.
Yeah, physically we are.
We are physically separated. Is there a way that we could be integrated to this?
Yeah, there are various aspects to look at. It's true that it is somewhat of a disadvantage in a way. We are separated, and therefore the rail links and the road links cannot come straight to us. For instance, if we look at Laos, which just finished the railway from China, has become so effective that Thailand itself is building highways and roads to Laos so that they can export their fruits and goods directly to Laos and be transported by rail to China and to the rest of the world. So that is already creating a massive magnet for trade. In our case, we don't have that, but we don't need to have that because there are other ways to be part of this trade highway. If we look, for instance, Taiwan is separated from the mainland, and yet it is a powerhouse. Japan is separated from the mainland, and yet it is a powerhouse. Why? Because you don't have to stay in your own country. If you have the capacity to organize, produce, and package, you can always go to the next country and make that your base. The Filipinos are thinking of ourselves as islands, whereas the Taiwanese, the Japanese, the Vietnamese, the Chinese, they're coming to our country if they need to distribute to us. So if we are going to distribute, for instance, just today we had a meal with Oishi. It's a Philippine company that has become more than 50 times bigger by going out to China, and now they're going to Central Asia, Vietnam. They even went to South Africa. So that is one way if we're talking about physical goods. There are also items that we can sell that are not physical goods. For instance, the things that we can sell in terms of services, let them come to us in terms of tourism and services. No, let them come here because they love the beaches. They love the Philippines. If we can make it safer and easier to travel and give them the different levels that they are interested in, so that's one way we can have them come to enjoy the services, hospitality, the food, and the other things that we can offer to them. And another is that we can be producing goods like research and development, education that other countries are providing. So there are so many ways. We're limiting the way we think to goods, and that may not be our strongest point. Even then, if we have a way of distributing and presenting the goods even from other countries, they will come and buy it here. If we have tourists coming here, they will buy both our goods and the goods of other peoples and other countries.
So it seems that
we just have to be creative.
So it seems, George, that the service sector is really our competitive advantage. Am I getting?
It's an advantage we can have and use. For instance, the medical tourism is massive in Thailand and Singapore. A lot of the people from here go to Singapore for medical treatment, even if it's more expensive, because it's seen as more accurate and more professionally done. A lot of the people here are also going to Taiwan and even the US for medical services. There are also a lot of people now going to Korea for beauty services. So these are technologies that are not very hard to learn and bring here. And we have certain cost advantages. We are not, for instance, in terms of dealing with physical therapy and light medical services, inferior to, we are at the level of Thailand and India. And Thailand and India, we've done the surveys, are about 15 to 20% cheaper. If someone looks in the internet and shops for these services, they might find that it's cheaper to go there. But once they have been to the Philippines, they will find that they prefer the Philippines even if it costs 20% more, because we can speak English and they are very comfortable here. Now, what we have to do in terms of these medical services, for instance, is to make the negotiations for pension plans, insurance plans, to be able to pay the Americans their medical services here. We don't have that pipeline of the financial and insurance services yet. We also don't have the legal framework in which they feel protected in case there is negligence or damages. So we have to put the laws in, and then we may potentially have a very, very large amount of tourists from the medical end and not just from the entertainment end.
George, before we go on a break, let me
Of
just
course,
ask.
we can also look at the Koreans.
Sorry. George, before we go on a break, let me just ask you this question, because we tackled on why the Philippines, the obstacle of the Philippines being physically separated from, the Europe-Asian trade, which is dominated by land. But is there any other reasons why we are not, any reason why we find it hard to integrate into this trade, like, for example, political reasons?
Subscribe for more videos and updates. Thanks for liking and sharing. Integrated Development Studies Institute supports productive, integrated, multidimensional views and insights that promote truth, peace, and development.